Hey everyone, welcome to Pupcorn. Today we're going to be doing things a little bit different, more of a vlog style video as opposed to me being a disembodied voice. You actually get to see me. So the reason that we're doing it this way is because I have some questions for you guys about a book that I am currently stuck on. So I've read the entire franchise and this final book, I just can't seem to get through it. Now the franchise that I'm talking about, of course, is Twilight. So anyone who knows me, it might be kind of a shock that I've read this series as they came out, and I've seen all the movies, but I wasn't really a huge fan. So I like vampires, but I'm more of like the Bram Stoker and Rice type vampire, not so much like the sparkling Stephanie Meyer's vampire. In reading this series, it was kind of like a big struggle for me. A friend of mine gifted the first book for my birthday when we were in high school, and it sat on my shelf for over a year before she was finally like, listen, just read the book, it's not that bad. So I did pick it up, I blew through it in like 2 days, and she was right, it wasn't a bad book. I actually rather enjoyed the first book. However, what that meant is I had high hopes for the second book. This series as a whole just kind of goes downhill from there for me. It took me a really long time to get through the second book. I did eventually do it, but I almost wrote off the series as like, this is just something that I'm not interested in. I don't enjoy reading it. It's not for me. But my sister convinced me to keep reading the books. At this point in time, it had become more of a franchise. The films were coming out. There was merch. People started actually listening to Claire de Lune and liking it. So, something good did come from Twilight. So, yay, classical music. But I read the book, Eclipse. It's the third book in the series. And it was better. It wasn't absolutely terrible, but it still just wasn't really for me. But now I felt like I was too far in to just quit reading the series. So I did end up reading the final book, Breaking Dawn, which honestly I should have just stopped. I should have stopped while I was ahead. That book was really bad to me. And I think for me personally, it was the content. It goes into extreme detail, the honeymoon of Edward and Bella, but it also went into extreme detail about the birth of their half-vampire baby, which would be uncomfortable for anyone. But the book that I really wanted to talk about today that I'm struggling with is actually Midnight Sun. So it's the final book in the franchise. The series itself still ends with Breaking Dawn. Originally, Stephanie Meyers had already planned A Midnight Sun to come out around 2008 when Breaking Dawn came out. She already had this book in the works, and somebody, I think it was somebody on her staff, either someone on her staff or someone close to her, leaked the first 100 pages of A Midnight Sun.
Traitor!
So she made the decision to not finish writing. She was gonna completely just trash the entire idea. Fans were really upset. And she was essentially like, this person ruined it for everyone. Now fast forward, it's been 15 years since the start of this series, since Twilight came out. It has been, over 15 years. And walking through the bookstore, after quarantine lifts and we are allowed to go out, I had run out of reading material, so I, of course, went to the bookstore. And it's the only thing that I would really probably risk my life to do. Now, going through, I saw A Midnight Sun. First of all, I was absolutely shocked at the size. Like, this is a 700-page book. That is a very large book compared to its counterpart, Twilight, that is almost 300 pages shorter. So I was kind of curious as to like, wow, okay, so there must be a lot of detail. It is from Edward's point of view, so he's much older. We must get a lot of background story. So seeing that Twilight was really the only book in the franchise that I initially enjoyed, I thought, what the heck, I'll pick it up, I'll read it. I should have just saved the $30, friends, because I cannot get through this book. What I was hoping for was that it would detail all of the reasons why Edward is so afraid to fall in love, why he's so afraid to turn Bella into a vampire. All of those details. I wanted to know what his life was like being a vampire for the past 100 years. You know, he's been in this kind of like time loop of being 17, going to school over and over and over again, moving over and over and over again, watching everyone that he ever cared about in any sense of the word grow old and die. Like, that's the type of stuff I was hoping from Stephanie with A Midnight Sun, since it was 12 years late, I guess. So not really late, but delayed. It was supposed to come out closer to 2008, and now it's 2020, and we finally got the book, so that's a lot of time to develop this idea. I was hoping it would grow with the reader. You know, despite the media presence of J.K. Rowling right now, I'm not going to say one way or another how I feel about that, but her books grew with the reader. So as you read through Harry Potter, as the books got bigger and more intense and the characters grew, the readers grew with them. That's kind of how I was hoping she would approach this final book, is when these books originally came out in the franchise, the readers were much younger. Now it's over 10 years later and you're targeting that same audience, but you still wrote it as though it was meant for that high school kid. So that was already strike one, was the writing style, the content. It didn't mature with the reader. The second one is, it's really boring. I am 150 pages into the 700-page book, and one interesting thing has happened, and I'll actually get into that in a minute, but it's really only been Edward being obsessed with Bella, of like, I love her, I shouldn't love her, I'm gonna leave Forks, no, I'll stay. Oh, she's in danger, I'm gonna protect her. Oh, she's in danger because I'm near her. Just this back and forth internal conflict of him with Bella, and I would be okay with that if there was an explanation or a reason. So if he's like, oh, I want to be near her, but remember that time 80 years ago when I tried that before. You know, something like that to give us a sense of this discomfort that he's feeling, because right now you can't really relate to it. And I feel as though that's what made the first book decent, was you could actually relate to Bella. You were seeing the story through her point of view and you could relate to her. You can't really relate to Edward here. I mean, we're not vampires, so we don't have this struggle, so you need to give us a reason to relate to him. Now, the only interesting thing that's happened, in my opinion so far, in the first 150 pages that I've read, took place in 2 sentences. So, sorry, I have hiccups. It was a conversation between Edward and Emmett, and they were talking about why Edward won't turn Bella into a vampire, why he's so against it. And Emmett essentially is saying, you know, Rosalie fell in love with him and turned him into a vampire, and he was okay with it, and he's happy with his life and where he's at now. And to me, that was like, oh, cool, like, we're actually going to get into some details as to why Edward is the way he is. And that whole idea was just shut down after 2 sentences of Edward being like, well, it's not that way. And then he keeps going on doing what he's doing. So it's like, I feel as though we are all Emmett in the situation where Emmett's like, please, this is freaking boring. Like, do something interesting. And everyone's like, nah, we're going to keep doing the same old, same old. And then we're just like, come on, like, give us a little bit more. And really, that's the only interesting conversation or thing that's happened so far in the book. So my question to you guys, if you've read A Midnight Sun, if you've purchased the book in either hardback, softback, online, whatever, you've read it, did you enjoy it? What are your opinions on the book? What are your thoughts on it? Does it get better? If you're a fan, let me know why you think this is a good book, if you've read through it. But I really want to know your thoughts and your opinions, and drop them in the comments down below. Again, if you want to see a review on like the Twilight series as a whole, I'd be more than happy to make a separate video. Keeping in mind, it's not going to be the nicest of videos because I'm not a huge fan of the series, but I would love to share some thoughts and opinions with you guys in the comments on the books, on the franchise, especially Midnight Sun. So don't forget to give the video a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe so that you never miss any nerd content. And don't forget, guys, to stay safe out there, and we'll catch you next time. Toodles!